Winter Roses, Summer by fairytalelovr. Chapter 27. Secrets and Loyalties. Once the excitement over the jousting was over, they held the archery competition. Theon managed to make it to the final three, but was beaten by the reigning champion, which meant he was sour and bad-humoured the rest of the day. The ale at the feast helped him improve it. The melee was set to start an hour after luncheon. Rob invited Marjorie to join him and his siblings, so the loudest table in the informal tent put up for the meal was set for the two of them, Jon and Daenerys, Sansa, Arya, Bran, Meera, Sam and Theon. Lord Beric Dondarrion was the last one standing that afternoon, claiming the victory in the melee. As they made their way back to the castle, Ned turned to Ella.
His squire seemed familiar. Do you know who that boy is?
She smiled and nodded before noticing they had company in their path. I heard say the boy is Lord Edric Dane. He is the heir to Starfall, and the gossip is in court that his father is very ill, so he is likely to come into his lordship even before he comes of age. He is fostered with Lord Beric because he is betrothed to his aunt Ellaria Dane. Ned squeezed her hand in solidarity. Other than when he asked her to get information from Arthur, Ella never spoke about her family. He could understand it. He couldn't fathom what it must be like to be so close, yet so far. And he could see now why the boy looked familiar. He had the same chin as Arthur, though his hair was pale blonde, and he had such dark blue eyes they seemed purple. He curbed any more comments, though. To be seen speaking about the Danes was a connection they didn't need. The feast was even louder than the night before, and even the wedding feast. Daenerys had drawn all eyes in the room when she and Jon walked in. She was wearing a deep burgundy dress recalling the Targaryen red, a starling blue belt, and the crown of winter roses, as befitting the Queen of Love and Beauty. She had kept the winter diamond necklace with a winter rose pendant, but changed the earrings to a pair of rubies pending on a silver thread. She was the perfect embodiment of her birth family and the family she had married into. Ned had momentarily brought the room to silence when he announced his betrothal to the public eye at least, a commoner. Rob had salvaged the situation by taking Ella's hand, kissing the back of it, and welcoming her to House Stark without reservations. Arya was also in full support, and Bran was wary but decided to follow Rob's opinion. But Sansa still seemed a little unconvinced, though she knew better than to show it. Lord Manderley was walking around with his chest puffed, proudly announcing to all that would hear about his new position as Vice Admiral of the Northern Fleet. The Northern Lords were also shocked when Ned announced the betrothal between Bran and Meera Reed, as the Cranogman have a habit of keeping to themselves. The announcement of the betrothal between Rob and Marjorie Tyrell to be wedded after she turned 16 raised some eyebrows as well, but was happily cheered when they thought of the advantages of an alliance with the Reach would come winter. The other lords came seeking Arya and Sansa's hands, but Ned said he'd think about other alliances on a later date. He was particularly irked when Roose Bolton asked for Sansa's hand for his son Domeric, and then he was really glad to hear that he already said he would decide later. Watching as Ella laughed while dancing with Rob, when he was joined. She is a beauty, your intended. I can see why even the high and mighty Lord Stark would get into bed with a commoner, as long as she looked like that. Ned clenched his jaw. Prince Oberyn, he greeted. Some of the lords are whispering you should marry another lady. Waste if you ask me. You already did the dull thing and married for duty, so I say go ahead and marry her. I'm quite certain a commoner is bound to make you much happier in bed than a prudish highborn.
You might be a Prince of Dawn, Ned said through clenched teeth, but you will not speak ill of my future wife again. You'll find yourself crossing blades with me.
Oberyn threw back his head in laughter, so fiercely defending the honour of a common woman.
The standing of her birth is irrelevant to her honour. Ned snapped, take back what you said.
You know, for years there was gossip that it must have been a rare woman to turn the head of Lord Eddard Stark to make him forget his beloved honour. Who would imagine you... Enough with that, Oberyn. Ella cut off with a soft and sweet voice and gentle tone, not to raise attention from other people. You're being obnoxious. I am obnoxious, the man answered simply. Ella bit back a scarf. Don't I know that? Go find someone else to bother. She smiled to keep up appearances. The prince rolled his eyes. You know, it's something I never understood, but always admired. This talent you and my sister had of chastising us with a sweet and loving smile on your faces. Keep it up, and I'll drop the smile. People know of your tongue. They won't find it suspicious. All right, I can see I've overstayed the joke. I'm going. He smirked and then bowed his head in a flowery and showy manner. Lady Ella, Lord Stag. Ella kept her smile until he was far enough away. Obnoxious buffoon. I'm sorry, Ned. I should have guessed he'd do something. He could never help being a nuisance. I came as soon as I saw you two talking.
He knows? Ned asked, his anger fading to give way to concern.
Ella nodded. He recognized me last night. We grew up together. I knew he probably would. I would have told you, but you were in the Godswood the whole night, and then this morning there was no chance.
What if...
He won't tell. Doran, maybe, but neither of them would tell Robert or betray me. I will. Oh, damned man! She cursed, and Ned turned to look where she was. Oberyn had left them only to go and talk to John. You told me John is aware his mother is dead? She said in such a low voice he had trouble hearing it.
He is.
And he knows I'm not her, right?
I told him and Rob. They know who you are, and that you're not John's mother.
Good, she said, walking away.
What are you going to do? He called after her.
Improvise! Ella crossed the room to the place Oberyn was preparing to make another victim of his tongue. You must be rejoicing, Lord Starling, finally seeing your parents together. John frowned, about to argue when Ella arrived. What part of stop being obnoxious did he not understand? She asked, again sweetly. It's very creepy, you know. I can see the anger in your eyes, but you could your voice in. It's called politics, Oberyn, and keeping up appearances. You told me to go find someone else to bother. Ella wanted to punch him. She would have, if they went in public. Why don't you go and find yourself some company? Oh, I will. Soon enough I'm busy using my tongue for something else now. Such as thanking your son for his outstanding performance against the child-murdering rapist. I'm sure Uncle Artie would be proud. Ned is a great swordsman, and John is his father's son. Get away with you. You've said your piece. Oberyn made a show of rolling his eyes. 17 years, and you still berate me as if I were a child. You behave like a child. Be expected to be treated as one. She put an arm around John's shoulders. Come along, John. He's not worth your time. John went with her, though he was increasingly confused. Ella led them to an empty corner near a table of drunken lords who were too absorbed in their own loud game to listen to other people talking.
Father said...
I am not. But there's no reason to dig her up and drag her name through the mud. Besides, these people already think of me as a common whore. Let them say what they will, as long as you know the truth.
John gave her a strange look.
What?
You would let them? But my father, if he already loved you, he broke...
He held no oaths to me.
But he loved you, and he betrayed that.
He had been told he would never be allowed to marry me in the first place. Then his sister vanished without a trace. His older brother rode south on a fool's mission and got himself and their father killed by a mad tyrant. But that meant he needed to marry his brother's betrothed, a woman he neither knew nor loved, to keep the alliance. He was fighting a war to avenge them and free his sister, a war he might not outlive. He had a moment of weakness, one I can resent, but seeing his regret, one I can forgive.
Catelyn would never, John pointed out.
Maybe she could, if she had known the truth. Maybe I wouldn't have forgiven him if I didn't, Ella thought. I'm not Catelyn.
No. Thank the gods for that.
Wyman Manderley was a smart man. He had been worried when Ned Stark had chosen the Blessed Island as the future home of his bastard and the last Targaryen. But he had been reassured when they were to be a minor house sworn to White Harbour. Then House Starling was elevated to a major house. Wyman had been initially furious, but had understood the reasoning afterward. He had been afraid to have the Blessed Island inhabited again, could make trade from White Harbour. But that never proved to be true. On the contrary, while the Blessed Island was the first place to stop, it only proved to be an outpost, and White Harbour continued to be the most important port, since it was the first in the continental north. Also, with John Starling making trade deals with more Essosi merchants, White Harbour was receiving more foreign goods than ever, and the Northern Lords were slowly starting to buy them. Then the Starlings had discovered their mines, and it seemed more than likely their own port would blossom while White Harbour would decline. So far it hadn't. White Harbour was still the main port of the continental north, and nothing would change that. Also, with the mines, Blessed Island wouldn't undertake the northern trade of timber and wool, therefore wouldn't interfere with what was already in place. So Wyman thought there was no reason to hold a grudge, knowing that it hadn't been Ned Stark's intention to slight him, nor had he been otherwise affected by the changes. The title of Admiral had stung though. House Manderley was the northern house with the biggest sea presence, and House Starling was barely crawling out of the cradle. But then again, Lord Starling was Ned Stark's son. A son he claimed, but never had any standing of true born before his marriage. If rumours of the reason the former Lady Stark had been sent away were true, then Ned might have been trying to make up to his son for all those slights growing up. The betrothal with House Tyrell had been harder to swallow, especially since his granddaughter had been running Winterfell for nearly a year now. However, an alliance with the Reach would bring untold benefits once winter came, not to mention how White Harbour would profit from the growing trade. Wyman was unhappy, but he could still see the logic. That afternoon, he had been resting from the excitement of the 2 days of Tourney had brought, preparing for what the next day would bring with the showing of the jewellery, when a squire had brought a message from Ned Stark, asking him to meet him in the Godswood as soon as it was convenient. Wyman had sent the squire away, saying it was convenient now. After all, when your liege called, you answered. You found Ned already sitting in a bench by the lake.
I may not follow the old gods, he said when he was close enough, but I have to admit, it's a peaceful place. I didn't mean to be disrespectful to your faith, my lord. I merely wanted a place where we could talk without being overheard.
Wyman felt the seriousness of the conversation.
Whatever you need of me, my lord, I am yours to command.
Ned smiled softly.
House Stark is indeed very lucky to count with the loyalty and friendship of House Manderley.
He paused, and Wyman waited for Ned to collect his thoughts.
My lord, you are older and more experienced than I am. We've seen a lot of these past few years, and I am not fooled like the other empty heads to think your size means you are craven. You are a clever man, and I need you on my side in this venture. Always, Lord Stark, always. House Manderley will never forget the debt we owe the Starks. Whatever you need, you may command it of me. King's Landing is a lion's den, Lord Manderley. The Lannisters rule the place in all but name, and they are forever wanting more power. Damned be the law and by the people. All the while, the king grows tired of his wife and heir, and the treasury suffers debt after debt. Are you suggesting the king might set Cersei Lannister aside? I don't know, but I certainly fear it. In that case, Tywin Lannister will declare war. That's why you're building a fleet, is it not, Lord Stark? It is. I named you Vice Admiral, not out of a slight, but for a practical reason. Jon is young. He can lead the ships at sea, but I need a good and experienced man leading the northern defences on the shore. You have held White Harbour for decades. I know I can trust you with that.
Wyman smiled, bowing his head.
You most certainly can, my lord. No Lannister ship or any other enemy will land on our shores and survive to tell the tale. I am assured of that. My southern alliances come from a desire to protect the north, my lord, not forget our origins. I know the first men held the north until the dragons came knocking, but now that we are one realm, we must be a part of that realm. Otherwise they will forever close themselves for us, and we will starve when winter comes. Very wise, Lord Stark, very wise. The north remembers, they say. But if no one speaks of a story, then it can never be remembered. Sometimes it is for the best. Others, it is best if people from the outside, no, people who are trusted, also know of a secret. Then, when it's needed, they can remember for the one who cannot speak. I will never betray your trust, Lord Stark. I know. That is why I have chosen you to share the secret. Because there may come a day I shall need to have help be sent. And I need someone to know how to see help needs to be sent. Ned sighed. I know what is the gossip about my betrothed. Rude mouths, my lord. The lady seems lovely, and we all know you are not one to be charmed by a woman's smile. They call her common, and even a whore. Well, as far as they know, she is common. As far as they know, my lord? I'll tell you this in confidence, Lord Manderley. I am not trying to manipulate your loyalty. I could have told you to be prepared, but never explain, invoking your loyalty as your liege lord. I'm telling you this because, if comes a time the unspeakable happens, someone outside the family can come to our aid. One who will see a Dane banner and a ship from Starfall, and know they are Lady Stark's blood.
Wyman was shocked into silence. He had not seen that coming. There were rumours, of course, that whispered Ashara Dane was Jon Starling's mother. Credible ones to those who had seen how infatuated she and Ned Stark had looked in Harrenhal. These same rumours came accompanied with the sad story of her suicide.
But I thought... The realm thinks her dead, my lord. Indeed. Do you think our king would forgive one of Rhaegar Targaryen's closest friends, and one of the fiercest Targaryen loyalists? They were both deeply involved with the dragons. To ensure the safety of their own house, the realm had to believe her dead.
Wyman saw the cracks in the story. Ashara Dane had been handmaiden to Princess Elia Martell, who is said to have been the next Targaryen queen. So her loyalty to the dragons was clear, especially taking into consideration how Robert Baratheon had stayed silent in regards to the brutal and horrifying slaughter of Rhaegar's wife and children. Sir Arthur Dane was also a fervent supporter of the Targaryen dynasty, not to mention openly close friend to the fallen Prince of Dragonstone. Their disappearance to protect their house would not have been shocking. But the story running about is that when Ned Stark had gone to rescue his sister, he had cut down the Sword of the Morning to get to her. Regardless of his noble reasons, it was doubtless a woman who had faked her death to protect her standing of her house, would risk returning to court only to marry her brother's killer. If the sister had faked her death, it seemed so had the brother. And if Ned Stark was involved, a friend of Robert Baratheon's, maybe the story of what had happened in that tower in Dawn had been only that, a story. The Lord of White Harbour had no love lost for the dragons, but he had heard enough about Rhaegar Targaryen to know it wasn't in character for a prince so beloved by his people to kidnap and rape a woman, let alone a daughter of a great house. He also knew enough of Lyanna Stark and her wolf's blood to know that even a full squadron would have had trouble taking her. And any man who tried to rape her would find himself sore one way or another. And if Ned Stark brought home the daughter of his father and brother's murderer, the sister of the man who had ruined and killed his sister and raised her lovingly with his own daughters, things didn't add up. There was more to the story. There had to be. It seemed as though Winterfell held more secrets than one would have thought.
Don't worry, my lord. You can trust me.
My dear brother, I hope you haven't completely swallowed this place around you. I miss you, Artie. I was watching the tourney yesterday, and I missed you forevermore. I wish you could have been there. You would have thrown all these jesters on their asses, I'm certain. Jon was superb, Artie, truly his father's son. He was unstoppable. I know even you would have found so. Or perhaps, if you had always been here, putting him through his paces for training, he would have been more than superb. He would have been epic. No one would have even stood a chance then. And when he won, he rode to his wife and crowned her the Queen of Love and Beauty, with a wreath of winter roses. It was uncanny. There is something I haven't told you yet, and it's because, first, I know what your reaction will be, and second, I wish you could truly be here. But now it's official and made public, so I must stop feeling hurt. Catelyn has joined the faith, which has dissolved their marriage vows, so Ned and I are getting married. I know it's impossible, but I wish you could be there to give me away in Father's place. Well, may Big Brother forgive me, but if you could be both there, I would still choose you. But he is sick, Artie. I saw him just over a year ago, and the gout has chained him to a bed. The maester said he wouldn't last the year, and even though he has, at any moment I'm expecting the raven that Edric is Lord Dane. You would also be very proud of our nephew. He is young, but very responsible. I do believe our house is in good hands. And I am counting the days until I see you again. Robert is facing problems, and the realm is drowning in debt, Artie. I hope Aerys is freezing in a special kind of hell, away from his beloved fire. but at least he knew how to balance accounts. Or at least he let Tywin handle it successfully. Robert is a petulant child who throws money in tourneys and whores and wine. And while he leaves the running of the realm into his hand, he never listened to Jon Arryn, and Ned has trouble trying to convince him of the most basic of things. Ned doesn't like to talk about it. He thinks it's treason. But I think winter is coming for the fat stag and the lions. Cersei is losing it, and it won't be long before Robert snaps and does something drastic that will make Tywin raise his banners. And as they consume each other, brother, I think we can call for a restoration. I know you will ride to join us immediately, so of course I'll send for you at the first whispers. I miss you, brother. Simple as that. Love, Lady Ashara of House Dane. Arya frowned down at the crib, watching as Lyanna babbled and smiled, squirming in a cute velvet lilac dress that brought out her eyes. But what does she do? Daenerys chuckled. Eat and sleep. That's boring. Can't she even get out of there? You say that like she was a prisoner, the poor thing, Marjorie said. Smiling, Dany bent down and took her daughter in her arms. Would you like to hold her? I'm fine, thanks, Arya said with a scowl, watching her niece as if she were an alien creature. But I would, Sansa said excitedly. Dany juggled again, passing Lyanna over to Sansa. I was too young when Rickon was born, the redhead said. Oh, how cute she is! When can she do something other than lie there? Arya asked. Arya, don't be annoying, Sansa exclaimed. She'll walk around her first name day, Daenerys said. She looks like you, Dany. Sansa said. Really? I think she looks like Jon. Like a Stark. I don't know how good that is, Arya muttered. Everyone says I look like a Stark, and according to Sansa and her friend, I have a horse face. Sansa blushed in embarrassment, but Marjorie laughed. One of my cousins always mocked me and called me Pigface. She said I had a nose like a pig's, and every time she'd pass me in the halls, she'd oink. You look nothing like a pig, Arya said. Thank you, that does make me feel better, Marjorie said. Doesn't mean the nasty little girls didn't call me that for years. I learnt to ignore her. You should too. I think you look beautiful. Arya smiled. Maybe not all Southerners were a bore. When Ned came into the room, he found Ella in the balcony, staring out into the dark sky.
What is it?
He asked softly. I'm being silly, she said simply.
It can't only be that.
How was your talk with Lord Manderley?
Good, I think. I think it's still a risky gamble.
Ned, you need the support of your bannermen, and the Manderleys are powerful allies, extremely loyal to you. But since Robin's visit, they've been suffering blow after blow. Maybe they wouldn't act on it, but you needed to stop any resentment from festering. If they're extremely loyal, you must show you trust them equally as forcefully. He sighed, sitting on the sofa by the unlit fire.
I still don't like this game of politics.
She smiled, leaving the balcony and coming to join him. You're getting better at it.
You have only yourself to blame.
She curled up next to him, laying her head on his chest.
What is wrong?
It's nothing, she murmured into his shirt. I told you I'm being silly.
If it's gotten you this upset, I doubt it's silly.
It is. It's nothing. I just...
Ashara, Ned whispered. Please, tell me.
She sighed, but sat up, though she refused to lift her head. My moonblood came, she confessed, and he felt sadness poking at his heart. I told you, it's silly. We don't even know if it can happen.
We know it can, Ash.
I haven't. Just because I got pregnant once. It didn't even work out that one time. What if, of course, it turns out...
It did not turn out for the best, Ash. You know that, and you don't mean it. Nothing would have been more important than our little girl. Not even all the gossip and trouble in the world.
But what if I can't? What if I can't get pregnant?
I told you that is not the reason I'm marrying you. I love you.
What if I need children? What if I need to feel my belly growing with our child again? What if what I most desire in the world is to hold our child in my arms and live to see them live more than a few days?
Ned was unsure of what to say. You can't torture yourself like this. he said after a few moments of silence. I'm no maester, though I'm sure all this stress can't be good for you.
That's easy for you to say, she mumbled. You already have children.
Maybe, he retorted, wounded. Or maybe I just love you enough to be happy that we can finally be together. You think I don't want that, Ashara? To see you carrying my child? To see our love blossom like that? To grow proud of our child as they grow up? I want that. Of course I do. But I won't torture myself over it. In Harrenhal, you told me to live every day like it was special. Remember? Like it had meaning. I forgot that for years. But finally I remembered. Now it seems you're the one who forgot it.
He stood up and left the room. Ashara fell back in the sofa, in an even worse mood than before. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Bit sad, but also nice. I like that bit with Marjorie reassuring Arya that she's beautiful. As someone who struggled to feel beautiful in her own skin until her mid-20s, I can relate to Arya. I used to have a bob of brown hair and a block fringe, bangs as you call them in America. I used to think, looking back at the pictures, God, I looked like Toad from Mario in my opinion. Everyone else says that short hair suited me, but I'm just like, no, I want long swishy princess hair now, and I'm living it. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.